BYD's net profit is down 27.5% in the third quarter of this year. What gives? Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Electric Viking. Fantastic to see you today on the channel. My name is Sam Evans, and it is 1:34 a.m. in the morning on a Thursday morning in very rainy, wet Melbourne, Australia. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing and liking and supporting the channel. Supporting the awesome thing that is electric cars, clean air, and batteries, renewable energy, all that great stuff. Believe it or not, the world is in fact getting better almost every day of the week. Seriously, you might have one day here and there where it gets worse, but all in all, things are getting pretty damn good on planet Earth. So thank you to those of you who have jumped on our Patreon account to support the channel. Means a lot to me, means a lot to, in terms of the financial attribute of supporting the channel, and also in terms of the morale building attribute. I really appreciate that. And also to those of you who have jumped on and become members of the channel, and to those of you who have been there from day one, supporting and liking and commenting on the videos. It's made a huge difference. I know who you are. I see you. Thank you. So BYD's Q3 revenue is up 22% year on year to 8.5 billion, but net profit is down 27.5%. What gives? Now, BYD's revenue continued to grow in the third quarter compared to the same period last year, but net profit fell as it did in the previous quarter. Net profit, in fact, has fallen 2 straight quarters in a row. The company's revenue in the third quarter rose 22% year on year to RMB 54.3 billion, which is $8.5 billion US dollars, mainly due to increases in the automotive and cell phone businesses, according to unaudited financial results it announced today. Now, most people aren't aware that nearly 50% of BYD's revenue comes from mobile phones. They manufacture mobile phones, and in particular, they manufacture batteries that go into mobile phones as well. In addition to that, obviously, BYD have a semiconductor chip manufacturing arm. They make batteries and they make cars and a whole bunch of other things. But the three main segments here that BYD are into, and this is what makes things challenging, is number one, 45% is handsets, about 30% is batteries, and less than 20% is actually cars. So you can see they're quite a big company. BYD's net profit in the third quarter fell 27.5% year on year to RMB 1.3 billion, although this was still higher than the RMB 237 million in the first quarter and the RMB 936 million in the second quarter. In other words, they still are making more money, just less profit on their gross sales. BYD's gross margin was 13.33% in the third quarter, down from 22.32% in the same period last year, but up from 12.6% in the first quarter and 12.9% in the second quarter. Now, BYD's selling expenses continued an upward trend so far this year, reaching RMB 1.6 billion in the third quarter, up 5.5% year on year. This is compared with RMB 1.25 billion in the first quarter and RMB 1.4 billion in the second quarter. Now, the company's R&D expenses reached RMB 2.24 billion in the third quarter, down 5.4% year over year, but higher than the RMB 1.22 billion in the first quarter and the RMB 1.72 billion in the second quarter. Now, to be honest with you, I'm surprised BYD is spending so little. How on earth are they producing so many batteries? I mean, seriously, in addition to that, they actually produce the batteries that go into the Mustang Mach-E. I made a video about that. I'll put a link in the description below. And word on the street is that Toyota's new EV will be, mainly produced by BYD as well. And obviously, since that's a Subaru as well, and Subaru's new EV too. So what I'm trying to say here is, in the third quarter of this month, BYD's electric car sales increased by 10,000 every single month. So the amount of batteries that they are putting out is astronomical. In addition to that, the energy storage contracts drastically increased as well. BYD is now at the end of its product mix transition to new energy vehicles, meaning I think about 92% of their cars are new energy vehicles. And while it still has fuel vehicles on sale, they already account for only a small fraction of its new energy vehicles. I believe it probably won't be any more than 5% in October. The company sold 80,000 vehicles in September, up 90% from a year earlier. Of those vehicles, 71,100 were new energy vehicles, accounting for 90% of the total. Now, this included 70,000 passenger cars and 1,077 commercial vehicles. For those of you who don't know, BYD makes buses, trains, trucks, and all different kinds, a whole host of different kinds of electric utility vehicles, dump trucks, all kinds of stuff. So among those new energy passionate vehicles, BYD sold 36,300 pure electric cars in September, up 200% from 12,200 units a year earlier. Massive, massive change. They basically tripled the number of electric car sales in September versus the same month last year. In plug-in hybrids, it sold 33,700 in September, up 430% from 6,400 units a year earlier. Now, believe it or not, the trend in China is actually more towards electric cars than plug-in hybrids. Obviously, BYD has trended more towards plug-ins. But in the Chinese market, 17% of all car sales in China in September were purely electric vehicles. Only 3% were actually plug-in hybrids. So as China's new energy vehicle subsidies decline from 2021 to 2023, apparently they will. I don't believe they will, but that's what China says. It will be completely withdrawn by 2023, apparently. Some investors are worried that the decline in profitability of new energy vehicles would be a drag on BYD's overall performance during its transformation process. And that's a very good point. Will the removal of these subsidies mean BYD won't make a profit? Well, no, because they're not going to remove them. It's a lie. It's impossible. Basically, the entire mini class of cars exists in China. We're talking like hundreds of thousands of sales of electric vehicles that are so important for the Chinese economy. They exist solely on credits from the Chinese government, and not just from the Chinese government, from states as well, state level as well. If they remove those credits entirely, that market will collapse. I mean, they'll have to it would be an absolute shit show. It's not going to happen. Sure, they will reduce subsidies, but there's no chance of China reducing them entirely by 2023. Why? Because China wants to own the world, right? China wants to own electric car manufacturing for the entire planet. Not only manufacturing, but in terms of, it wants to own brand presence. It wants ownership. And it knows it needs to subsidize its own manufacturing industry to do so, just like every other country does, and will continue to do so. Imagine if you go to America and the American government gives you $10,000 off an EV and China says, we're giving you nothing. It is going to be so hard to China to compete if you entirely remove subsidies. So no, they won't entirely remove subsidies. Don't worry, investors, that will not happen. If it does, you can draw and quarter me, because I'm telling you it will not. Now, Shanghai Securities said in a report last week that BYD is well prepared in the pure electric and plug-in hybrid technology routes and will hedge the impact of subsidy withdrawal through cost reduction, scale effect, and potential point value. Now, BYD plans on manufacturing 3.5 million EVs in the year 2025 and 5 million in the year 2030. It's going to be one of the biggest players in the world in terms of total vehicle sales by the year 2025. It's already on track to do that. We can see in the trends from these 12 months that is happening. Don't fret about these reduced margins. Tesla had to go through this period as well. Every car company goes through this period. Now, do I even know personally why the margins are reduced so much? I don't actually know, truthfully, because BYD isn't just a car company. You can say that even more so about BYD than you can say that about Tesla. So it's very difficult to know exactly why their margins have reduced significantly, because only 20% of their sales are cars. So much of their sales are batteries and mobile phones, handsets, and other things that is hard to tell. Regardless, though, BYD will become the second largest manufacturer of electric vehicles and batteries in the world, in my view, by the end of 2022. So is it a company to invest in? Hell yeah. Thanks for watching the channel. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.